Lawson, and I'm part of the team at Auckland Library. So I've really enjoyed delving through this treasure chest of photos to put this presentation together for you. And it's been quite a journey of discovery, looking up the background to the subject of some of the photos and to the photographers themselves. Some years ago, we showcased some of these photos in the library by putting a photo trail on the floor. And we had people literally on their hands and knees, and this was of all ages, absolutely captivated. So today you can do it from the comfort of your armchair, and I hope that you're just as captivated. So I'm just going to share my screen. Oh, it says host has disabled participant screen sharing, so you're able to.
That's whatever. It's something that.
Right. Okay, I'm trying to get. Is that not coming up? Okay, so can you see that? This is Auckland Library's website,
Yes.
which you find,
Yes.
if you just Google Auckland Libraries, it's the first one that pops up. So to find the heritage photos, you'll see there's a menu along here. So if we go to heritage, and it's this Kura Heritage Collections Online. So Kura means container. It also means treasure, heirloom, or valued possession. So we just click on that, and you'll see that the photos that we're going to look at today, and if we have time, a couple of maps, but there's manuscripts, there's rare books, there's all sorts of things, cemetery records, shipping lists, things that have been digitized that you can explore. So we just click on this, and you'll see there's browse this collection, and there's click here to search heritage images, which we'll just look at that first. This contains some librarians' choices and these through the decade selections. So I just wanted to show you the Albert Park one. So Albert Park was laid out on the site of the Albert Barracks in 1880. And you can see here the fountain, which was imported from Great Britain in 1881, and it's made of cast iron. Look at this pram. Looks like a collection. Okay, in the 1900s, and the fountain is now white. Get great views of the city at that point in time. 1910, pram with smaller wheels. The 1920s, and you've got the clock tower at the university featuring there. 1950s. And one of the floral clock, which was built in 1953 to commemorate the visit of Queen Elizabeth to New Zealand. So, let me go back. No, it's not.
Oh, that's a second.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get it to go back. It's not working quite the same.
What do you want? Do you want to sit up here? Come on in.
Okay, so this one here, browse the collection, and you can see there's one or two photos, 70,605. And on this side, you can click on a decade. You can click on things like hand colored, that's quite interesting, or collections, specific collections. So we're going to look today at three of these collections. And up here, if you click on that, you get these photos in a grid presentation, which makes them a lot easier to search through. So a couple caught my eye, this one of Partington's Mill, and I'm not going to click on it at the moment because we're going to come back to that one later. But this one here, who knew that there was golf links on One Tree Hill? So this photo is in 1905, and it's a photo of the famous Jacob's Ladder hole where they played from the South Amphitheatre over the plateau between the two was where the hole was. So, and in 1920, the Prince of Wales, later the Duke of Windsor, and Lord Louis Mountbatten played on this course. And there's an autographed photo at the Mangakiki Golf Club rooms from that visit. Okay, so that photo is part of the Vinkelman collection that we're going to look at later on. So as you saw, there's over 70,000 photos and growing as more are digitized. So today is really a taster aimed to whet your appetite, pique your curiosity, and encourage you to explore this vast treasure house for yourself. So we're going to look at a small selection from 3 of these. And I've also, sorry, just trying to get up. There we go. Also got some guess where photos, so that's where we get the interactive bit. Okay, so this is actually St. Helier's Bay in 1901. So the first collection that we're going to look at, oh no, first of all, interactive photos. Okay, so where is this? Any guesses? It's in the Pakuranga Howick area.
Excuse me, Karen, it's still stuck on One Tree Hill.
Ah, okay. All right. Okay, can you see that now? Cool. Any guesses where this might be?
Pakuranga Road?
It is Pakuranga Road. Where on Pakuranga Road? Do you know what is here now? So it's coming towards, here's a clue.
That's where Pakuranga College is now, isn't it?
It is. Well done. The future site of Pakuranga College. This is taken in 1958.
Yeah.
Okay, and another one, going back in time a little more. So if you look at the shape of this headland and that there's more up here, that might give you a clue.
And no, it's not steep enough for little bucks.
But you're close.
Oh, Eastern Beach.
No, this is Little Bucklands over here.
Oh, okay. Oh, right.
Looking out to Music Point.
No, Music Point would be over here somewhere. So this is the Bucklands Beach Peninsula out here. This doesn't look anything like this now, but there is a little walkway around here.
Sailing Club. Would it be the Pakuranga Sailing Club area?
Yeah, Half Moon Bay.
Half Moon Bay. This is Barn Beach, which has been filled in and is now the marina. So, okay, so the first collection we're going to look at today is the JT Diamond collection. So here he is, searching through some demolition debris at the Brick and Pottery Works, Glenburn in St. George's Street, Avondale. So Jack was born in 1912, and he spent over 60 years documenting the stories and landscapes of the Waitakere Ranges. And as a teenager, he lived in Morningside. He and the boys next door would ride out to Piha on their bikes, and they would stop at staging posts along the way to check no one had any punctures. Once they got to Lone Cowrie Road, it was a clay road. And so the boys next door would go off surfing, but Jack was fascinated by all the remnants of the Kauri industry, such as the bush huts and dams and tram lines that were still around in the bush. And he was unable to find much information about them in the library, so he began talking to some of the residents. And he would write down his conversations on a pad tied to the handlebars of his bike as he cycled back home. And he also researched the industrial, archaeological, and social history of West Auckland from early Māori settlement and through to the late 1990s. And in his latter years, he lived in Pakuranga, so there's a wee link there. So this collection, the J.T. Diamond collection, is housed at Waitakere Library, and it's a significant collection including 8,657 photos that have been digitized. So we're going to look at about 5 of those. So here we are at Piha in 1935. And what intrigued me about this was the surfboards. They look like giant ice block sticks. And you've got people here boogie boarding. So boogie boarding is not new. Not a wetsuit in sight. So they're obviously pretty tough. But yeah, those boards are quite interesting. And this one is camping out near Piha in the late 1890s. So we've got the ability to make the billy tea. And I just was intrigued. This looks like a tree here that they've used as a post for the tent. And they've got their long dresses and, you know, high collars, which can't have been that comfortable for camping. And I quite like this just because it's a bit quirky. The local circus taking an elephant for a walk in 1954 along Great North Road. Okay. Whoops, sorry, I'm just going to move. Right. Whoops. So this is the Piha tramway. This went from Piha down to Whatapu, bringing out the kauri logs, and they're supposed to only take 1 kauri log at a time. But if it was a fine day and it was all dry, they would put 2 on there. And there's still some remnants from this. If you go out to Whatapu, you can walk up where the tram line was until it becomes a swamp. And on the rocks, there's still some of the big iron nails that held everything in place. And here they are building the tram line. See the trestle in the front there.
What year would that have been, Karen?
I think it was on there, wasn't it? We'll just go back. That was, I didn't write that one down. So this one, I would have to go into the website and check that. Sorry about that. I thought I had the dates on all of them, but I can check and let you know. This one's 1930. This is one of the Kauri timber dams. And here it is in full flight. So they would have all the logs in behind the dam and then they'd release it and it would come thundering down with all the logs. So in quite a few of the streams in the Waitakeres, you can see big logs that got jammed there from when they did this, when the dams were tripped. They didn't all make it safely down. Okay, so that is just a very tiny selection from J.T. Diamond. So another guess where? Any ideas? It's in Pakuranga
Road by the opposite the park in St. Mark's.
No, it's further into it. Pakuranga than that. This is 1970, surprisingly. So this part of Pakuranga was developed during the 70s. And it is Glenmore Road. So doesn't really look like it, does it? Okay, what about this one? This one's a little bit more obvious.
Ridge Road in Howick.
It is building the concrete road in 1930. Yeah. Okay, the Reichenberg Collection. So here we've got John Reichenberg pictured with his family. He immigrated to New Zealand from the Netherlands in 1952 with 40 Dutch guilders, around $30 in his pocket, and a dream to turn his hobby of photography into a livelihood. In the late 1950s, armed with his Leica 35mm camera, he began going to evening social events around Auckland, photographing those there and offering the opportunity to purchase a print the next day. No selfies back then. He would also go down to the wharves when ocean liners were leaving and take photos of those farewelling the passengers. And his first rule of photography was always carry a camera. In 1958, he was able to give up his job in sheet metal fabrication and establish Reichenberg Photography in the basement of a car wrecker's yard in Ponsonby. And he ran this studio until the 70s. And he also spent so much time at the Sorrento in One Tree Hill that he eventually set up a studio there so his team could print photos on the spot. 900 boxes from his studio were donated to Auckland Libraries in 2017. And many of these capture the Auckland nightclub scene. Names like Johnny Devlin and the delightfully alliterative Max Merritt and the Meteors pop up. Here we've got Howard Morrison Quartet at the Crystal Palace in 1959. Ray Columbus and the Invaders, 1964, at the Oriental Ballroom. He also took photos of buildings and their interior. So this is an interior view of 33 View Road, Mount Eden. So I was quite fascinated by all the indoor plants. We've got all these planters, plus ones up on the wall. Internal windows, bit of a feature. And this bedroom, how's that for a feature window in your bedroom? And this is one of his photos down at the wharves, a group of unidentified people farewelling passengers on the Rangatane. So all dressed up to the nines, gloves, pearls, hats. So quite a social snapshot of the time. And he also took a lot of photos in Queen Street. These were all taken in 1960. And again, everybody absolutely dressed up to come into the city. Again, the gloves, the pearls, the hats. Okay, so that's my very tiny snapshot of Reichenberg photos. Another guess where? This one's quite difficult. It's 1971. And this rock, which was a special Maori artifact, is now at the Howick Historic Village. This sort of swampy ground might give you a clue as to where it is. Any ideas? Okay, it is the Wakaranga Creek near Pigeon Mountain. So this is the boundary stone here that's been moved to the village. Okay, and another one, more recent. Any guesses? You can see Pigeon Mountain over here. Any ideas where this might be taken from?
Highland Park area.
No. This is
Botany,
no.
What did you say?
Eastern Beach.
No.
Somewhere where they park trucks on their side.
Yeah, so this was when the Pakuranga kindergarten on Reeves Road was being built, corner of Reeves Road and Gerwin Place, and they had a little accident with the truck. Okay, so this was taken by Trevor Warbrook, who I interviewed, he and his wife, for an oral history project I did a few years ago on Pakuranga in the 60s, and this was one of his photos. So photos that we take just out of interest to record a dramatic moment or personal family record become history, as you can see here. Okay, so the third photographer that we're going to look at is Henry Vinkelman. There he is. Born 1860 in Yorkshire, arrived in New Zealand at Port Chalmers, Dunedin in October 1878. In 1881, he was unemployed and living in Auckland, so he took a job with his fellow boarder, Harold Hudson. So these two were to claim uninhabited Jarvis Island near the equator, valued for its guano, in the name of Thomas Henderson of Henderson and McFarlane. So they were dropped off in August of that year, 1881, and were to be picked up after 3 months, the period necessary to validate their claim. But the ship failed to turn up, leaving them with meagre supplies, and it seems they survived on turtles and preserved and ate birds' eggs. They also had a still that they had built. They were finally rescued in March 1882, 7 months after they had been dropped off. And the memorandum of agreement between Henry Vinkelman, Harold Hudson, and Thomas Henderson Jr. is in the archives of Tauranga City Library, part of a collection of material from Harold Hudson relating to his experience during this time. So something else you can explore at some point. So back to Henry and his photos. He began his photographic career in 1892, setting up a studio in Victoria Arcade in 1901. And being very meticulous and thorough, Vinkelman recorded the dates of each photo in accession registers, which gives us a very precise record of the past. So here we have Partington's Mill, the photo that I mentioned in passing earlier. This was built, you can see it here, in what is now Upper Simon Street. And it was built in 1850 with bricks from clay dug on the property, and at 6 floors high, it was a prominent feature on the Auckland skyline. So Partington ground flour, and from 1856, he manufactured a range of plain and fancy biscuits. And during the Waikato land wars, he won the government tender to supply biscuits to the British troops. The windmill was almost demolished in 1875 when Partington subdivided much of his land, but general outcry put a stop to this. And it was demolished in 1950 after a turbulent century of commercial ups and downs and family arguments, despite attempts from the Windmill Preservation Society to save it, and Joseph Partington's desire to give it to the City Council, who were not very enthusiastic about receiving a decaying structure that would be difficult to utilise. There's another shot of it. So there are millstones both at Motat and the Howick Historic Village labelled as coming from Partington Mill. And the memory lives on at Partington's restaurant at the Cordis Hotel, previously the Sheraton, then the Langhome, which is currently occupying that site. Okay, Vinkelman was also well known for his maritime scenes, and he often would climb the masts of yachts while sailing to get an aerial view of things. This montage was put together in 1904 for the New Zealand Graphic magazine. So you can see a number of lighthouses, and this looks like getting things off a boat onto an island where there's a lighthouse. This one is St. Heliers Bay waterfront in 1911. And here we have the ruins of St. Thomas Church, which I didn't even know there were ruins until I came across this photo. So St. Thomas's Church today is in the same location on the corner of West Tamaki Road and Kohimaramara Road, and is one of New Zealand's oldest stone churches. So the foundation for this was laid on the 21st of December 1834, using basalt rock from around Mount Wellington and sand from Mission Bay. And the roof shingles were from a Coromandel saw pit, so presumably they were kauri. And the stone walls were loopholed for guns, so the church could be used as a refuge in time of attack. But the stone was too soft, and the seawater and beach sand used for the cement was too salty, so it very soon showed signs of crumbling and was abandoned in 1859. The roof collapsed in 1905, the walls gradually caved in, and the remainder was demolished in 1954. So stones from the old church were carefully placed in an outline of the original building. There's even been a poem by New Zealand poet Alan Curnow, St. Thomas's Ruin, written about it. And in 1957, a new church was built as close to the character of the original as possible, and that's the church that's there today. So that was quite an interesting discovery. And this one is Judges Bay, with all the boat sheds and yachts pulled up, and you can see over here St. Stephen's Church up on the hill, and the Parnell Bars, which opened in 1914 and were an instant hit. They were redesigned in the 1950s, inspired by the resort style pools in the UK. And when they were opened in 1914, they helped to popularize ocean swimming, being saltwater pools. You can see how different this looks without the railway line coming across here and the road that is now comes across here. And this one is from a glass plate negative, and it is in the 1890s. And this down here is a public bath. This is a waterfront in Auckland, in the wharf. You can see North Head over here. And in the original, there's no rangitoto because it's so old that the glass print, but I was just quite fascinated how they've sort of put it in there, but it's not quite the right shape. Okay, right, another guess where?
That's the back of Mount Wellington.
No. I'll give you a clue. There's now...
In Mangere?
No, it's local. It's local to the Pakuranga, Bucklands Beach, Howick area. Sorry? No, it's not Pigeon Mountain. There's now stairs that take you up here, 119 stairs. And there's some rather large houses built up here.
Not the waterfront at Half Moon Bay?
No.
By the ferry? No?
No. Okay, it's Eastern Beach.
Oh.
1917.
Gosh.
Okay, what about this one? It's very near the previous one. That's my big clue.
Buckland's Beach.
Even closer than that.
Music Point.
No, close, like almost the same close. It's Eastern Beach. Hancock's Camping Ground, 1945. So about 40 years after the previous photo. Okay. So photos also provide a visual weaving of our story, a literal snapshot of a moment in time, and they can give a visual timeline of how a place has changed. So this is an aerial view of Pakuranga in 1950. So you've got the Pakuranga Highway and not a lot else. Okay, 1961, and you can see there's quite a few houses down here off Tamaki Bay Drive, Millen Ave, and up sort of Reeves Road. This is the trees on Glenside Avenue. And you can see they're starting to put in Turamia Drive, so you can still see the racetrack that was down there. So that was for horses. In a few years, the next year, 1962, so the racetrack's starting to disappear, a lot more houses down here. This is Tirako Drive. (1967), so a lot more developed, and we've got the Pakuranga Town Centre now, which opened in 1965, a lot more development over here. This is Gossamer Drive, and just a little bit of development in the Sunny Hills area. Close up of the town centre, so the famous Lloyd Elsmore's grocery with its hyperbolic paraboloid roof. St. Kentigern College over here. Where do you think this is? This is still on the timeline of Pakuranga. Any ideas which part of Pakuranga this is? With the bridge to nowhere.
Oh.
Okay, this is Gossamer Drive.
Yeah.
Tirako. So this is
Yep.
now Burswood
Yep.
over here. So the bridge had just been built then in 1973. Okay, are you happy to look at a couple of maps? Or have you had enough?
Keep
I
going.
am.
Keep going. Okay, so this is Ferdinand von Hochstetter, a German-Austrian geologist born 1829, and in 1857 he was appointed geologist to the scientific expedition of the Austrian naval frigate Novara. And in Cape Town, George Grey encouraged the Novara's Commodore, Bernard von Wuselsdorf-Hubert, to visit Auckland, New Zealand, to allow scientific examination of the North Island volcanic regions. So the Novara arrived in Auckland on the 22nd of December, 1858. And Hochstetter, pictured here, soon met Julius Haast, another German who had arrived in New Zealand. And Haast was to accompany Hochstetter on all his New Zealand journeys. So Hochstetter became the first to describe and interpret many features of New Zealand's geology. And there's a number of places named after him: Mount Hochstetter and Lake Hochstetter on the west coast of the South Island, the Hochstetter Dome and the Hochstetter Icefall in the Tasman Glacier area of Aoraki Mount Cook.
What about the Hochstetter frog?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Well done, well done. So these three things bear his name: the Hochstetter frog, which is tiny little native frog and possesses some of the most ancient features of any existing frogs in the world. And this chap, the Porphyrio hochstetteri, better known as the takahe. And these wonderful things, Poelephanta hochstetteri, New Zealand's giant carnivorous land snail. Okay, so we're going to go back to the website. I'll just change my screen sharing. And yeah. So we're still in Kura, but now looking at heritage maps. So there was just a couple of the Hochstetter maps that I was going to show you. This one, which you may well have seen, it's quite famous. The Isthmus of Auckland with its extinct volcanoes from 1859. So it also shows all the lava flows, which is quite interesting. Yeah, so this is us here, Pakuranga, Parklands Beach Peninsula. This is Pakuranga down here. Here's the Panmure Basin. So this is Hiniarangi or Pigeon Mountain. So there used to be an extremely large version of this on the wall at the Waipuna Lodge by the restaurant there. Okay. And the other one of his that I wanted to show you is this one of Lake Rotomahana. So Roto Lake, Mahana Warm, so it was called the Warm Lake. And this was done by Hochstetter in in that decade, 1850 to 1859. So I think it was actually 1859. And so the Tarawera eruption was in 1886. So this is prior to that. And he surveyed that area. So these are all your pink, white, and black terraces, your location. And in between 2010 and 2020, his survey diaries were reverse engineered to provide coordinates for the pink, black, and white terraces. So I thought this was quite an intriguing map. This map is actually the only primary evidence of their location of those terraces today. So I thought that was quite interesting. Okay, so that's my presentation. Hope you found that interesting. And
Absolutely fascinating.
oh, great. And just pop into the library if you've got any questions or need help with anything, and you know, exploring our vast digitized treasure chest on our website.
Wow, Karen, I had no idea. This is just sort of like, this is